I still remember that sunny Saturday like it was yesterday. The kind of day that should have been peaceful. The kind of day that should have ended with laughter. But peace shattered the moment ruthless HOA Karen stepped onto my property. I was trimming the roses with my daughter, Lily, who was just 7 years old, her tiny hands covered in dirt and petals. She squealed as she accidentally knocked over a small vase of flowers. I thought nothing of it. It was a child's mistake. Karen, however, didn't see a mistake. She saw an opportunity for cruelty, her face twisted with an icy, unrelenting fury. And before I could even step in, she grabbed Lily by the arm. "You're going to pay for this," she hissed, dragging her across the concrete walkway. I froze. My daughter's cries pierced the air, mingling with the sound of petals being crushed beneath her small feet. Every instinct in me screamed to intervene, but I hesitated, shocked by the sheer audacity of her aggression. Neighbors started to peek from behind curtains. Some whispered, some shook their heads, but no one moved. And then the rage hit me. Pure, uncontrollable, blinding rage. I dropped the shears, my hands trembling as I charged. "Let go of my daughter!" I screamed, adrenaline pumping through every vein. Karen's eyes flicked to me, a smirk forming as if she thought I was just another homeowner she could intimidate. But she underestimated me. I grabbed her wrist, yanking her away from Lily, who now sobbed, clutching my sleeve. The smell of crushed flowers mixed with fear hung thick in the air. My hands shook not with fear but with the cold, calculated resolve I felt brewing inside me. For months, Karen had terrorized our neighborhood, sending fines for imaginary offenses, threatening homeowners over the smallest trivialities, and enforcing rules with a terrifying ruthlessness. This moment, this public display of her cruelty, would be the breaking point. I looked down at the petals crushed beneath my daughter's shoes, at the tears streaming down her face, and felt a promise solidify in my chest. This wouldn't just end with Karen being reprimanded. No, she would feel the weight of justice in a way she never imagined. And that's when I started planning the exact kind of concrete justice that would bury her arrogance forever. After that day, the neighborhood felt different. Karen retreated behind her pristine white fence, but I could see the smirk never truly left her face. She believed she had won, that she had instilled fear in my daughter, in me, in all of us. But she underestimated one thing, the quiet fury that grows in someone pushed too far. The kind of fury that plans, calculates, and waits for the perfect moment to strike. I spent the next few days carefully observing her routines. Every detail mattered. The way she left her house at exactly 7:30 a.m., the subtle patterns in how she interacted with other homeowners, and the way she flaunted her authority over trivial HOA rules. I took notes, jotting down every observation, every quirk. Lily, though still shaken, sat beside me as I created a mental map of the battlefield. She hugged me tightly every night, whispering, "We'll make her stop, right?" And I promised her, "We will." Meanwhile, Karen continued her reign of terror, though she did so cautiously, probably sensing that her theatrics had been witnessed. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes on cars, reporting minor yard discrepancies, and flaunting HOA letters like trophies. Every letter she sent felt like a challenge, a dare to cross the line. I knew that the next encounter couldn't be impulsive. It had to be perfect. Concrete justice doesn't work if it's sloppy. It's about timing, precision, and making her fully grasp the consequences of her actions. I also reached out quietly to neighbors who had been intimidated for years. Many had suffered under Karen's relentless control, but fear kept them silent. I reminded them of our collective strength, showing them that her power depended entirely on our submission. Slowly, whispers of support began to replace the tension of fear. Some even offered small but crucial help, sharing insights I might have overlooked. The network was forming, silent yet potent, ready for the moment when our plan would come to fruition. At night, I reviewed every encounter I'd had with Karen, replaying each interaction in my mind. Her smug expressions, her condescending tone, the satisfaction she took in our discomfort. It fueled the strategy that was slowly taking shape. The plan wasn't about vengeance alone. It was about delivering justice that would resonate long after the initial confrontation. And as I stood on the porch one evening, watching her perfect white lawn under the golden sunset, I knew the time was approaching. The concrete justice I envisioned wasn't just about teaching her a lesson. It was about burying her arrogance piece by piece, until she realized the full weight of her cruelty. The moment was coming, and Karen would never see it coming. The opportunity arrived sooner than I expected. 3 days after the incident, a bright orange HOA notice appeared taped to my door, flapping in the wind like a declaration of war. Unauthorized landscaping alteration, it read. A fine, a hearing, and Karen's signature at the bottom, bold and smug. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. She was baiting me, and this time, I was ready to take it. The HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening at the community center. Word spread quickly. Neighbors whispered in driveways, exchanged looks over fences, and quietly promised to attend. Karen walked in that night dressed like a corporate executioner, clipboard tucked under her arm, chin lifted high. She believed this was her courtroom, her stage, her moment to crush another family beneath her rules. When my name was called, I stood calmly, Lily's scraped knees still fresh in my mind. Karen launched into her speech with practiced arrogance, accusing me of property damage, disorderly conduct, and violating HOA codes. She spoke loudly, confidently, assuming silence meant submission. But when she finished, I asked one simple question. May I show the footage? Her expression flickered. I connected my phone to the projector. The room went quiet. The video played clearly. Karen storming across my yard, grabbing Lily's arm, dragging her across the concrete as she cried and screamed. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone stood up. Another shook their head in disbelief. Karen stammered, trying to interrupt, but it was too late. The truth was larger than her voice. Then came the second blow. One by one, neighbors stood and shared their stories. Harassment, threats, fabricated fines, years of intimidation. Karen's authority began to crumble in real time, her posture shrinking as the room turned against her. The board members whispered urgently, panic replacing confidence. This wasn't an HOA issue anymore. This was a liability. Karen tried to leave, but a board member stopped her. Someone had already called the police. When the officers arrived, they asked to see the footage again. Karen's face drained of color as they took notes, their expressions hardening. For the first time, she wasn't in control. As she was escorted out, she locked eyes with me. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something hollow. Fear. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet understanding that consequences had finally arrived. Outside, the concrete walkway reflected the streetlights. The same ground where my daughter had cried now bore witness to Karen's fall. I knelt beside Lily, hugged her tightly, and whispered, "She can't hurt us anymore." But this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of her regret. The days after the HOA meeting felt surreal. Karen's presence in the neighborhood had evaporated, but the echoes of her arrogance lingered like a dark cloud. Neighbors who had previously cowered behind fences now walked with a new confidence, greeting me and Lily with quiet smiles. The garden, once a battleground of crushed flowers and tears, began to flourish again, under our care, symbolic of the justice that had finally taken root. Karen didn't stop at humiliation. She tried to retaliate through legal threats, sending letters filled with bureaucratic jargon and intimidating fines. But each attempt felt hollow, powerless. The HOA board, now fully aware of her past transgressions, rejected her claims outright. Even the lawyers she contacted seemed wary of stepping into a battle that was no longer about rules. It was about exposure, truth, and accountability. Word spread online. Neighbors shared the footage, and social media turned Karen into a cautionary tale. Her name became synonymous with cruelty, manipulation, and obsession with control. I watched the comments pour in, messages of outrage, support, and relief. People were applauding the justice, praising the way it had unfolded. For the first time, Karen wasn't in control of the narrative. She was a story being told without her consent, a spectacle of arrogance undone. But the most satisfying part wasn't public approval. It was the quiet justice that unfolded privately. Karen had to confront every neighbor she had once intimidated. Each interaction now carried a heavy weight, shame, fear, and the knowledge that the power she had wielded so casually had evaporated. Her daily routines, once a source of intimidation, became exercises in tension and avoidance. The arrogance that had fueled her identity was replaced by paranoia, a constant awareness that she could be watched, exposed, or challenged at any moment. Lily began to smile again, her laughter returning to the yard. The trauma of that first cruel act had been intense, but witnessing justice unfold in real time gave her a sense of safety and resilience. I saw her confidence bloom alongside the roses we replanted, teaching her that courage and integrity could dismantle cruelty, no matter how entrenched it seemed. And yet, as I watched Karen's slow unraveling, a final thought settled in my mind. This was not just about punishment. It was about teaching lessons that could not be forgotten. Concrete justice leaves a mark, not just physically, but emotionally and socially. And in Karen's case, it was the most indelible mark of all: regret. The storm had passed, But the aftermath still had work to do. The final chapter of this ordeal was approaching, one that would cement the ultimate reckoning. It all came to a head one crisp morning. Karen's arrogance had been chipped away, but her desperation was growing. She attempted one final act of intimidation, a complaint filed with the city about a trivial zoning violation. But this time, the tables were turned. I had documented everything. Her harassment, the HOA violations, the public spectacle. Every letter, every video, every witness statement was ready. This wasn't just defense. It was the hammer of accountability, and it was about to fall. The city inspectors arrived at her house, clipboard in hand. Karen attempted her usual smirk, but it faltered quickly when the footage from the HOA incident was played again, showing her dragging Lily across the concrete flowers in our yard. Her neighbors had testified as well, recounting years of intimidation and cruelty. Karen's house, once a symbol of control, felt smaller somehow, contained by the weight of her actions and the undeniable proof that she had abused her power. She tried to argue, to negotiate, to charm her way out, but the evidence was overwhelming. The officials shook their heads. The city attorney leaned forward, and for the first time, Karen realized her schemes had backfired spectacularly. Her face, once full of condescending confidence, was now pale, rigid with panic. She wasn't just losing authority. She was facing consequences that would follow her for the rest of her life. Outside, I watched as neighbors came together, a silent chorus of support and relief. Lily held my hand tightly, her eyes bright and unafraid. "Mom, did we really do it?" she asked softly. I nodded, feeling the weight of years of injustice lift. The concrete that had once been a place of fear had become a monument to resilience. Karen had underestimated the power of truth, unity, and courage, and that underestimation was her undoing. Weeks later, the HOA board formally banned her from participating in any community affairs, and the fines she tried to impose on others were reversed. Her reputation was irreparably damaged. No one trusted her, no one feared her, and the arrogance that had defined her life had been replaced by regret. A slow, suffocating realization of the harm she had caused. And so, the concrete justice I had envisioned was complete, not just for Lily, not just for me, but for the neighborhood that had long suffered in silence. Karen's legacy of cruelty was buried beneath accountability, exposure, and the unshakable courage of those she had once tormented. As I held Lily in the yard, surrounded by thriving flowers, I whispered, "Justice isn't always loud, but it's always felt." And in that moment, the weight of fear lifted forever. The lesson was clear. Cruelty has consequences. And when you underestimate the strength of those you oppress, justice, like concrete, sets fast and unyielding. If you felt the sting of that injustice, hit like. Because ordinary people fighting back deserve to be heard. Subscribe to my Karen Files so you never miss real stories of truth and triumph. And share your take below. How would you have handled her cruelty?